He stood up with me on top of him, just stood up and threw me 10, 15 feet across the room and went after her.
Dean Tipton says December 7th, 2015 is a night that changed his life. He says his children woke him up. He then found a man attacking his children.
And when I got to the top of the stairs, he attacked me. He come at me with the knife.
The night took a tragic turn with the loss of a life, his 6-year-old son, Logan. Dean says immediately after Logan's death, he lost his will to live.
I laid in bed. I gave up. I gave up on life. I gave up on my family. I gave up on everybody. I just wanted to die.
In the years since, the family has done their best to cope, but mentions they are mentally and emotionally scarred, and they are hurt that Ronald DeSantis will no longer be behind bars.
Everybody deserves a fighting chance to have justice for them, and it's not.
I've had my talks with God, because I'm not afraid to tell you all. I told the court, if I ever cross paths with him, I will kill the man. I will kill him where he stands.
I will kill the man. I will kill him where he stands. Those are the words of a father whose 6-year-old son was stabbed to death in his own bed by a complete stranger. A father who just learned that his son's killer has been released from prison after serving less than half his sentence. The killer's name is Ronald DeSantis. And what happened on the night of December 6, 2015 in a quiet Kentucky home will make you question everything you thought you knew about justice in America. This is the story of Logan Tipton. And this is a story about how the system failed him. December 6, 2015, Versailles, Kentucky. A small town where people still leave their doors unlocked at night. A place where neighbors know each other's names. Where children play outside until the streetlights come on. The kind of town where you think, nothing bad could ever happen here. The Tipton family was sound asleep in their home on Douglas Avenue. Dean and Heather Tipton and their children. Among them, 6-year-old Logan, sleeping peacefully in the room he shared with his sister Dakota. Just a normal Tuesday night. Just another peaceful evening in small-town Kentucky. They had no idea that a stranger was about to walk through their unlocked door. His name was Ronald DeSantis, a 32-year-old dialysis nurse from Indianapolis, Indiana. He had driven over 100 miles to this random house, in a town where he knew no one. 4 reasons that still don't make complete sense. He chose the Tipton home. What happened next was every parent's worst nightmare. DeSantis walked upstairs. The house was quiet. Everyone was sleeping. He found the children's bedroom, and he took a kitchen knife and began stabbing 6-year-old Logan as he slept. Logan screamed. A child's scream in the darkness. His cries woke his sister Dakota. And what Dakota saw, no child should ever witness. No human being should ever see. In her own words, I remember waking up across the room, not where I was at, and I looked and he was killing Logan and Logan was screaming. Imagine being a child, waking up in your own bedroom, and seeing your little brother being murdered right in front of you. But Dakota's nightmare wasn't over. DeSantis turned on her, stabbed her in the back, then stomped on her head. She was just a little girl, and this stranger was trying to kill her too. The commotion woke Dean Tipton, Logan's father. He burst into the room and tackled DeSantis. He did what any father would do. He fought for his children. But this man, this intruder, had an almost superhuman strength. Dean described how DeSantis stood up with me on top of him. Just stood up and threw me 10 to 15 feet across the room. Dean fought back with everything he had. Somehow, through sheer will and adrenaline, he managed to restrain DeSantis and hold him down until police arrived. But it was too late for Logan. The 6-year-old boy had been stabbed so violently in the head that the knife blade bent. The medical examiner would later testify about the brutality of the attack. The force, the violence, the complete lack of mercy shown to a sleeping child. Logan Tipton died that night. His sister Dakota survived physically. But the psychological scars? The trauma of watching her brother die? Those would last forever. And here's what makes this even more terrifying. The Tipton family had never seen Ronald DeSantis before in their lives. He was a complete stranger who randomly chose their home, walked through their unlocked door, and destroyed their family forever. So who was this man? And why did he do this? Ronald Exantis was a dialysis nurse working in Indianapolis. By all accounts, he had a job, a life. But something was very wrong. When he was arraigned for the murder, his attorney said something chilling. She told the court that Exantis was unresponsive when asked basic questions. He didn't know his mother's phone number. He couldn't tell her what he was doing in Kentucky. When she asked him questions, he would say, "He's not here." It became clear that Exantis was experiencing severe mental illness, psychosis, a complete break from reality. At a state psychiatric center, witnesses said he behaved bizarrely, barking like a dog, tearing at his dreadlocks. And when investigators asked him why he attacked the Tipton family, his answer was incomprehensible. He said he was reenacting surgery from the TV show Grey's Anatomy. Let that sink in. A trained medical professional, suffering from untreated psychosis, traveled to a random town and murdered a child because of a television show. But here's where this case gets complicated. Because what happened in the courtroom would set the stage for what many see as a complete miscarriage of justice. In 2018, 3 years after Logan's murder, Ronald Exantis went to trial. 3 long years of waiting. 3 years of the Tipton family reliving that nightmare every single day. Prosecutors sought the death penalty. The Tipton family wanted justice. They wanted accountability. They wanted this man to pay for what he'd done to their little boy, to their family, to their lives. The trial lasted 6 days. And here's something important. Both the defense and the prosecution admitted that Ronald Exantis killed Logan Tipton. There was no dispute about that. No question about who wielded the knife. No debate about what happened that night. The question was, could he be held criminally responsible? The defense argued that Exantis was in a state of psychosis, that he was legally insane at the time of the attack, that he lacked the ability to understand what he was doing or control his behavior. They brought in expert witnesses, psychiatrists, psychologists, all testifying that Ronald Exantis was not in his right mind. A defense psychologist testified that Exantis suffered from an underlying mental illness that caused his psychotic break. That this was a medical condition. Not evil. Not calculated. Just illness. The prosecution argued for justice. For accountability. For the death penalty. They argued that mental illness doesn't give someone a free pass to murder a child. That Logan Tipton deserved justice. That the family deserved closure. The jury heard testimony about the attack. About Logan's final moments. About Dakota's trauma. About Dean's desperate fight to save his children. They saw the evidence. The photos. The knife with the bent blade. After deliberation, the jury came back with their verdict. And here's where things get legally bizarre. Where the case takes a turn that many people, including legal experts, still struggle to understand. Ronald Exantis was found not guilty of murdering Logan Tipton, by reason of insanity. He was also found not guilty of first-degree burglary, by reason of insanity. But, for the assaults on Dean Tipton and the children, he was found guilty but mentally ill. Let me repeat that. The jury said he was too insane to be held responsible for the murder, but he was responsible for the assaults that happened during the exact same incident. The same night. The same house. The same weapon. The same mental state. How does that make sense? How can you be insane for one crime but not insane for the others, when they all happened in the same attack at the same time in the same mental state? Legal experts tried to explain it. One said, the jury felt there was sufficient evidence that his mental state at the time of the murder was enough to find him not guilty by reason of insanity. That meant he lacked substantial ability to either appreciate his criminality or conform his behavior to the requirements of law. But for the family? This made no sense. This felt like a betrayal. A slap in the face. Their son was dead. And his killer was being declared not guilty because of mental illness, while simultaneously being found guilty of attacking the rest of the family. The legal system had created a paradox. And Logan Tipton was caught in the middle of it. Ronald Exantis was sentenced to 20 years in prison for the assault charges. 10 years for each second-degree assault, running concurrently, plus 1 year for fourth-degree assault. The judge ordered that he receive mental health treatment while incarcerated. Treatment that, theoretically, would help him, would make him better, would ensure he'd never hurt anyone again. 20 years. That's what Logan Tipton's life was worth in the eyes of the law. 20 years for the assaults. Nothing for the murder. But it gets worse. Because Ronald DeSantis wouldn't serve anywhere close to 20 years. By December 2019, just 4 years after the murder, Ronald DeSantis became eligible for parole. Time served credits meant he'd already earned early release consideration. In 2021, he was denied parole. The family breathed a small sigh of relief. But on October 1, 2025, just weeks ago, Ronald DeSantis walked out of prison. He had served approximately 7 years. 7 years out of a 20-year sentence. Roughly 35% of his time. Why was he released? Good behavior. And education credits. Think about that. A man found not guilty of murder by reason of insanity earned good behavior credits. The irony is almost too much to bear. The Tipton family found out about his release, and they were devastated, terrified, furious. Because here's what makes this even more alarming. The state of Kentucky never contacted them. Never asked if they needed security. Never offered protection. Never even made a phone call. Heather Tipton, Logan's mother, said, "Nobody from the state has contacted us to ask us if we thought about needing security, extra protection, anything like that. If you're a victim and there's something like a violent criminal that's going to be released that is in connection to you or your case, I think you should be offered some sort of security or protection, or at least just a phone call." And Dean Tipton, Logan's father, the man who tackled his son's killer and held him down that horrible night, he had this to say about the early release. "I've had my talks with God because I'm not afraid to tell you what I told the court. If I ever cross paths with him, I will kill the man. I will kill him where he stands." A father's rage. Raw. Unfiltered. Completely understandable. Dean also expressed fear that DeSantis might return. He said, "As a father, I fear that he may come back and try to finish what, because if I remember right, he told Coral that he was going to kill everyone." DeSantis will remain under probation and parole supervision until his sentence formally expires in June 2026. He's been sent to Florida to serve his mandatory re-entry supervision. But is that enough? Is supervision enough for a man who randomly entered a stranger's home and murdered a child? The impact of that December night goes far beyond Logan's death. Heather Tipton said it best, "He didn't just kill my son. He killed every member of my family, every single one of us, and every person that's sitting here today is a completely different person than they were when they went to bed December 6th. Dean Tipton talked about how he lost the will to live after losing his son. "I laid in bed. I gave up. I gave up on life. I gave up on my family. I gave up on everybody. I just wanted to die." Dakota, who witnessed her brother's murder and was herself attacked, has to live with those images forever. Coral, the eldest sister, has become an advocate, saying, "I will say that till I turn blue in the face every day I breathe, I will talk about how the judicial system of Kentucky has ruined our family." After the sentencing in 2018, the family vowed to establish Logan's Law and marched to the courthouse chanting "Justice for Logan." But despite their determination, despite their advocacy, Ronald DeSantis is now free. Dean summed up the family's pain. "It just seems like a 6-year-old's life is worth more than 10 years in prison." Yet the family remains defiant. Heather said, "The mentality that we have kept through this whole thing is we're not going to let him take one more thing from us. He's taken all he's going to take." This case raises questions that should disturb all of us. How can someone be too insane to be guilty of murder, but sane enough to be guilty of assault during the same attack? How can someone who brutally murdered a 6-year-old child serve only 7 years? How can good behavior credits apply to someone who was found legally insane? Why wasn't the family notified properly about security concerns? And perhaps most importantly, is Ronald DeSantis still a danger to society? The mental health treatment he received in prison may have helped him. We don't know. What we do know is that he experienced a severe psychotic break once before, and a little boy died. This case sits at the uncomfortable intersection of mental health, criminal justice, and victim rights. There are no easy answers. Mental illness is real. It affects people's ability to control their actions. But where do we draw the line between compassion for the mentally ill and protection for innocent people? The Tipton family has been living their own life sentence since December 6, 2015. While Ronald Exantis is now free to start over, they can never get Logan back. 6-year-old Logan Tipton never got to grow up, never got to go to his first day of middle school, never got to learn to drive, never got to fall in love, never got to live. And his killer is free after 7 years. Is this justice? The Tipton family doesn't think so. And after hearing this story, you might not think so either. Rest in peace, Logan Tipton. Your family will never stop fighting for you. If you found this case as disturbing as I did, please leave a comment below. Do you think the sentence was fair? Should mental illness excuse violent crime? And what do you think about early release policies? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more true crime coverage. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a case. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones the system sets free.